and that I will more than likely be sharing this with anyone who needs to catch up. So, finding your comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. You might take a moment and maybe even roll the shoulders out a few times. Find your comfortable seat. If you're sitting upright, I recommend reaching back and pulling the flesh, the extra flesh of the bottom up and out, because what that allows you to do is sit more on the inside of the pelvic floor versus directly on the tailbone. So kind of restructuring a habit within the body. Take a moment to find any subtle shifts that you might need, such as bringing the shoulders just above the hips. Relax the belly, let it be long and round and soft. Relax the muscles of the face, the shoulders and the torso. Relax the legs. If it would feel right for you to allow your eyes to float closed, you can do that. We're going to take 3 deep intentional breaths here. With each exhale, invite a deeper sense of relaxation into the present moment. Take a deep inhale here. Inhale deep. This time you're going to hold the breath at the top for just a moment. Exhale, let it out. Inhale deep. Suck in a little more air. Exhale, let it gush out. The secret art of inviting happiness, the miraculous medicine for all diseases. Just for today, do not be angry. Do not worry, and be filled with gratitude. Devote yourself to your work and be kind to people and all living things. Every morning and evening, join your hands in prayer. Pray these words to your heart. Chant these words with your mouth. Usui Reiki treatment for the improvement of body, mind, and spirit. So I'm going to invite you to take the next couple of moments just sitting with what is, releasing any distractions in your present moment. Noticing the body as it is. Noticing the mind as it is. Then noticing the heart. You can either continue sitting in quiet contemplation, or if you feel called to journal the current state of your heart or your mind or your body, you can take the next several minutes to do so. What is the current state of your heart or your body or your mind? We'll take about another minute here. So you can begin finishing up on the thought that you're on. If you need to add any final sentence or finish up. Okay. So we're going to dive right into the lesson. Hold on to your journal prompts. There will be a sharing circle at the end of the lesson. So you can be thinking about the parts that you want to share or know that you don't have to share it all. But we'll dive right into learning about the history of Reiki. I think that the story of Reiki is quite interesting. So I'm happy to be presenting it to you all. So give me just a moment and then I'm going to share my screen here. And alrighty. So hopefully everyone can see that. If for any reason you can't, just unmute yourself and let me know. But we have the history of Reiki. And there have been many, many attempts to explain the history of Reiki. But unfortunately, in the past, many of them have been based on myth and an attempt to validate a particular style of Reiki. For the most part, it's lacked accuracy, and it hasn't ever been based on actual fact. So William Lee Rand has taken, and he's kind of the current father of Reiki here in the States, here in the US. And he's spent the last 20 years researching information, moving through written records, connecting and interviewing folks who, oh, you can't see it. Okay. Well, let me see if I can fix that. Start sharing. Oh, because I didn't hit start sharing. Okay, thank you. Let's try that again. Now, can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay. Logan, can you see it? All right. Just hit me in the chat box again if you cannot see it. So William Lee Rand, awesome, has been researching, interviewing people, moving through written records for the last 20 years. Really, at this point, it's probably been 30 years. But the result is his following understanding of Reiki and its lineage. So many consider that Mikaya Usui, also known as Usui Sensei, as we reverently refer to him, as the creator of Reiki, and that the word Reiki applies only to the healing modality that he discovered and developed. Yet, when researching the facts concerning the origin of Reiki as a healing modality, we find that prior to Usui Sensei developing his style of Reiki, there were at least 4 other styles of Reiki healing that were being practiced in Japan. And this information comes from a couple of researchers that he interviewed with. In 1914, a Japanese therapist created a healing style he called Reiki Ryoho. And in 1919, he published a book titled Reiki, or Reiki Healing and Its Effects. It was during this time that these Reiki styles were already in use, that in March 1922, Usui Sensei had his mystical experience on Kurama Yama, which was a mystical mountain that they revered in Japan, in which he was given Reiki energy, and from this developed his style of Reiki. So this goes, the images that you see here, we have a picture of Buddha. We have a picture of the gentleman that first developed and wrote the first book about Reiki, and his name was Kwakami. And then we also have a picture of Jesus Christ down here at the bottom. These were all understood to be Reiki healers, even though they may not have been using the term Reiki because of cultural differences. But Reiki is rumored to have been around for thousands of years, and some even believe that it's been around since the dawn of creation. So what led Dr. Usui, and there's a picture of him, so Sensei Makeya Usui, what led him, gave him kind of the footing, was that because of circumstances that developed during World War II, along with the work of Takata Sensei, and we'll get to her in just a bit, that the other forms of Reiki fell into disuse or remained relatively unknown, while Usui Reiki continued to be practiced and grew in popularity. In considering what should or should not be called Reiki, we must consider that not only have there been many systems of Reiki healing that are original and do have a lineage going back to Usui Sensei, but that the Reiki energy has been around, again, for thousands of years. And in fact, some feel that it's been around since the dawn of time. And Reiki energy is something that anyone can make use of. Of course, many have. So with this in mind, it appears logical to assume that any system that makes use of Reiki energy can be called Reiki, not just those systems that can be traced back through Usui Sensei. However, because of the conditions in Japan after World War II, and the fact that Hoya Takata had brought Reiki to the West, meaning she brought it to the States, Usui Reiki became the predominant form of Reiki practiced throughout the world. Because of this, a thorough understanding of Usui Reiki is important, as it will give us a foundation for understand Reiki, making it easier for us to connect to the essence, to the deep-seatedness of Reiki healing. So more about Makeya Usui. He is called by Reiki students in Japan Usui Sensei, and he was born on August 15th, 1865. He was born in Tokyo. He was born in Nagoya, Japan, but later he moved to Tokyo where he developed his style of Reiki. He had an avid interest in learning, and he worked hard at his studies. As he grew older, he was able to travel to Europe and China to further his education. His curriculum included medicine, psychology, and religion, as well as the art of divination, which in Asia, the art of divination was long considered to be a worthy skill, and it is something that we develop and learn in Reiki 3, which is really exciting. Usui Sensei also became a member of Reiki History, and that is a metaphysical group that is dedicated to developing psychic abilities. He had many jobs, including civil servant, company employee, and journalist, and he helped rehabilitate prisoners. Eventually, he became the secretary of Shinpei Goto. He was the head of the Department of Health and Welfare, and he later became the mayor of Tokyo. So he was basically the right-hand man to the mayor of Tokyo. And the connections that Usui Sensei made at this job helped him also become a successful businessman. The depth and breadth of his experiences inspired him to direct his attention toward discovering the purpose of life. And in my understanding of that, it is what I'm referring to as the true north. In his research, he came across the description of a special state of consciousness that, once achieved, would not only provide an understanding of one's life purpose, but it would also guide one to achieve it. This special state is called Shinditsume. In this special state, one is always at peace, regardless of what is taking place in the world around them. And it is from this place of peace that one completes one's life purpose. One of the special features of this state is that it maintains itself without any effort on the part of the individual. The experience of peace simply wells up spontaneously from within and is a type of enlightenment. Usui Sensei understood this concept on an intellectual level, and he dedicated his life to achieving it. This is considered to be an important step on Usui Sensei's spiritual path. So this is one of the key drives that led him to discover Reiki healing. And I will say discover because as he was on the path to Anshin Ditsume, it is through the practice of meditation that he was encouraged to find that state of enlightenment. So he found a Zen teacher who accepted him, and as a student he began to practicing meditation. He did that for 3 years, and he was not successful in uncovering that state of enlightenment. And so his teacher suggested a more severe practice in which the student must be willing to die in order to achieve that state, Anshin Ditsume. So with this in mind, he prepared for death. And in February 1922, he went to Kuruma-yama, a sacred mountain north of Kyoto, and he went to fast and meditate until he passed to the next world. It must be kept in mind that he was not looking to discover any form of healing, but he was seeking to experience this special spiritual state, even if it were to kill him. In addition, we know there is a small waterfall on Kuruma-yama where even today people still go to meditate. Field trip, guys? Just kidding, but maybe. This meditation involves standing under the waterfall and allowing the water to strike and flow over the top of the head. It is a practice that is said to activate the crown chakra. Japanese Reiki masters think that Usui Sensei may have used this meditation as part of his practice during his 21-day fast. In any case, as time passed, he continued to become weaker and weaker. And now a month later, or close to a month later, in March 1922, at midnight on the 21st day, he stood up and a powerful light suddenly entered his mind through the top of his head, and he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. This caused him to fall unconscious. As the sun rose, he awoke and realized that whereas before he had been feeling very weak and near death from his fasting, he was now filled with an extremely enjoyable state of vitality that he had never experienced before. A miraculous type of high-frequency spiritual energy had displaced his normal consciousness and replaced it with an amazingly new level of awareness. He experienced himself as a being of energy and and the same consciousness of the universe, and that the special state of enlightenment he had sought had been given to him as a gift. He was so overjoyed with this realization. When this happened, he was filled with excitement and went running down the mountain to tell his Zen master of his great good fortune. On his way down, however, he stubbed his toe and he fell down. And in the same way that anyone would, he grasped for his toe with his hands to hold it as it was in pain. As he did this, healing energy began flowing from his hands all by itself. The pain of his toe quickly went away and the toe was healed. Usui Sensei was amazed by this. He realized that in addition to the illuminating experience he had undergone, that he had also received the gift of healing. He understood that this was his life purpose. It was to be a healer and to train others to do the same. In April 1922, he moved to Tokyo and started a healing society that he named Usui Reiki Healing Method Society. And in Japan, it's known as Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai. He also opened a Reiki clinic in Tokyo where he taught classes and gave treatments. So we'll move through a little timeline here. So reviewing, going back about 1914 to 1919 is when that first Reiki practitioner wrote a book about Reiki. And it is said that Mikaya Usui had to have been studying Reiki before he uncovered the information about that state of enlightenment that he was seeking. And in 1922 is again when he traveled to the top of Mount Kurama, where he discovered Reiki. And immediately after, he opened the Reiki clinic in Tokyo. At first, all Usui Sensei had was the healing energy, but over time, he developed a complete system of Reiki practices. Most of these developments came in 1923, after the Great Kanto earthquake and tsunami that did extensive damage to Tokyo. This killed over 100,000 people. Got the wrong number in there. 100,000 people and injured over 1 million. Because there were so many people in need of healing, Usui Sensei decided he needed to do something to speed up his ability to train teachers. It was at this time that he developed many of his practitioner techniques, such as Gasho, Boysen scanning, Reiji Yoho, Yoshiho, and so forth. And all of these techniques are what we're going to be learning in the coming Sundays. So learning these methods and developing them, making it easier for others to learn Reiki and to become teachers. Prior to this, the method he used to pass on the Reiki ability was to simply hold the hands of the students, but this took a long time, and the attunement process that he developed transferred the Reiki ability much faster. During this time, he also developed the Reiki symbols. These same sources indicated that Usui Sensei also gave many attunements to each student, not just one or one set of attunements. The purpose of the student receiving the attunement over and over was that this process continually acted to refine and develop one's ability to channel Reiki energy, thus making the energy one channeled more versatile and able to heal a wider range of conditions, to heal more deeply and in a shorter amount of time. The philosophy of Usui Sensei was that there is no limit to the quality and effectiveness of the Reiki energy available in the universe, and an important purpose for all students was to continually seek to improve the quality and effectiveness of Reiki energy one is able to channel. So the demand for Reiki became so great that Usui Sensei outgrew his little clinic in Tokyo. So in 1925, he built a bigger one. Because of this, his reputation as a healer spread all over Japan. He began to travel so he could teach and treat many people. During his travels across Japan, he directly taught more than 2,000 students and initiated 20 masters, or at that time they were called shihan, each being given the same understanding of Reiki and approved to teach and give more reiju, or attunements, in the same way that he did. The Japanese government issued him a kansanto. This was an award for doing honorable work to help others. However, while traveling in 1926, he suffered a fast illness. Some say it was a stroke, in which he passed away from. And his grave is in Tokyo, and it's still a widely revered sacred place, and many Reiki practitioners still travel to see it. Yeah. So, taking a little break from that information and knowing that Mikaya Usui passed on his knowledge even after just learning Reiki or being bestowed with Reiki, enlightened with it in 1922, developing techniques over the course of 4 years. He had to be very open and willing to move and be flexible with this energy. And especially after a devastating earthquake and tsunami, he was able to develop ways to channel Reiki and allow it to move faster and heal more quickly. So compared to our time now of what we're experiencing, during this time, it's obviously a great time to learn a new skill, such as Reiki. If you know that healing others and working in holistic arts, it's more than ever needed in this day and age, especially as we're going through this widespread pandemic. But there are some things that have to change internally as we move through this process of healing. And as we do that on an individual level, we also know that it's going to be available for those outside or those that we might treat and with Reiki. So you might ask yourself, and I'll ask you to get your journals out and give yourself several minutes to journal this question. Am I ready and willing to open up to what's beyond my physical existence? And when we say physical existence, we can think of our life as it was or maybe is today. And can we do this while remaining grounded? So again, am I ready and willing to open up to what's beyond my physical existence, my current or old life before quarantine, while remaining grounded? Am I ready and willing to open up to what's beyond my physical existence or my old or current life while remaining grounded? Am I ready and willing to open up to what's beyond my current physical existence or my old life while remaining grounded? Another way this could be phrased is, am I willing to be flexible and flow with the changes as the universe shifts through this frequency shift, moves through this frequency shift? Am I willing and able to be flexible and flow with the changes as we move through this universal frequency shift? So we'll take about 1 more minute. Alrighty, begin finishing up that final thought that you're on. So we'll continue on with the lesson. You can just set your journal to the side. We'll come back to that. So the next key player that we're going to learn about in the lineage of Reiki, and please forgive me, I think I know how to pronounce his name, but maybe don't. Shujiro Hayashi. So before his passing, before Usui Sensei passed, he asked Shujiro Hayashi Sensei to open his own Reiki clinic and to expand and develop Reiki based on his previous experience as a medical doctor in the Navy. Motivated by his request, Hayashi Sensei started a school and clinic called the Usui Reiki Institute. At his clinic, which was located again in Tokyo, he kept careful records of all the illnesses and conditions of his Reiki patients. He also kept records of which Reiki hand positions worked best to treat each illness and condition. Based on these records, he created the Reiki guidelines for Reiki healing. This healing guide was part of a class manual he gave to his students. The handbook was to be used only if the practitioner was not able to use Boysen scanning to find the best hand positions to use. And again, we're going to learn all of these techniques. Many of his students received their Reiki training in return for working at his clinic. Hayashi Sensei also changed the way that Reiki sessions were given. Rather than have the client seated in a chair and treated by one practitioner, as Usui Sensei had done, Hayashi Sensei had the client lie on a treatment table and receive treatment from several practitioners at a time. He also created a new, more effective system for giving attunements. In addition to increase the value his students received while he was traveling, he developed a new method of teaching Reiki. In this method, he taught both Reiki 1 and 2 together in one 5-day seminar. Each day included 2 or 3 hours of instruction and 1 attunement. Following the Usui method, students were encouraged to receive attunements on a regular basis from their local shihan or teacher after completing Hayashi Sensei's class, so as to continue to refine and develop the quality of the Reiki energy that they channeled. So he just continued to encourage them, just as Usui Sensei had done, to continue receiving attunements as it continued to deepen and give more access to the Reiki energy. Because of his trip to Hawaii in 1937, prior to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, he was asked by the Japanese military to provide information about the location of warehouses and other military targets in Honolulu. However, he refused to do so and was declared a traitor. This caused him to lose face, which meant he and his family would be disgraced and would be ostracized from Japanese society. The only solution was what they practiced as ritual suicide, which he carried out. He died honorably on May 11th in 1940. After this, Hiyashi Sensei's wife, Chi Hiyashi, she took over his clinic and ran it for a few years, but eventually she did retire, and no one was there to take the position of running the clinic, so it came to an end. So next we're going to learn about Hoya. So Hoya Takata, the following is a summary of Takata's sensei's version of her early years leading up to her contract with Reiki at the Hiyashi Clinic. It came from an interview that appeared in the San Mateo Times in May 1975, titled "Miss Takata Opens Minds to Reiki." So she stated that she was born on December 24th, 1900, on the island of Kauai, Hawaii. Her parents were Japanese immigrants, and her father worked in a sugarcane field. She eventually married a bookkeeper of the plantation where she was employed. And they had 2 daughters, and on October 1930, her husband died at the age of 34, leaving Miss Takata to raise their 2 children alone. In order to provide for her family, she had to work very hard with very little rest. After 5 years, she developed severe abdominal pain and a lung condition. She had a nervous breakdown. Soon after this, one of her sisters died, and it was Takata Sensei's responsibility to travel to Japan, where her parents had resettled, to deliver the news. She also felt she could receive help for her health issue in Japan. After informing her parents and attending the funeral, she entered a hospital and stated that she was diagnosed with a tumor, gallstones, appendicitis, and asthma. She was told to prepare for an operation, but opted to visit the Hiyashi Sensei's clinic instead. Miss Takata was unfamiliar with Reiki, but was impressed that the diagnosis of Reiki practitioners at the clinic closely matched that of the doctors at the hospital. She began receiving treatments. 2 Reiki practitioners would treat her each day. The heat from their hands was so strong that she said she thought they were secretly using some kind of equipment. Seeing the large sleeves of the Japanese kimono worn by one, she thought that she'd found the secret place of the concealment. She grabbed a sleeve one day as the practitioner was working, but of course found nothing. When she explained what she was doing, he began to laugh and then told her about Reiki and how it worked. Miss Takata progressively got better, and in 4 months she was completely healed. She wanted to learn Reiki for herself. In the spring of 1936, she received first-degree Reiki from Dr. Hiyashi himself. She then worked for him for a year and received second degree. Miss Takata returned to Hawaii in 1937, followed shortly thereafter by Hiyashi Sensei, who came to help establish Reiki there. So he traveled with his daughter, and in February 1938, Hiyashi Sensei initiated Hoya Takata as a Reiki master. Takata Sensei practiced Reiki in Hawaii, established several clinics, one of which was located on the Big Island, and she gave treatments and initiated students all the way up to level 2. She became a well-known healer and traveled to the U.S. mainland and other parts of the world teaching and giving treatments. She was a powerful healer who attributed her success to the fact that she did a lot of Reiki on each client. She would often do multiple treatments, sometimes lasting hours, and she would treat difficult cases every day for months until the client was healed, just in the same manner that she was. To help with this process, she often initiated members of a client's family, so that way they could give Reiki to the client as well. Takata Sensei had a unique way of practicing and teaching Reiki, and was noticeably different than how Usui Sensei or even Hiyashi Sensei had practiced and taught. The late John Harvey Gray was one of Takata's most well-known students, and she indicated that he would be one of 3 Reiki masters that would carry out her work after she retired. He indicated in his book that Takata Sensei had changed the way she taught Reiki because she said that the Japanese style was too complicated and it would be difficult for Westerners to learn. Because of this, she said she had simplified the system. So this included the development of her own hand position system, which she called the foundation treatment. This consisted of 8 hand positions only, which were on the abdomen, the shoulders, and the head. She also included some additional positions for the back if the client needed them. This varied considerably from how Usui Sensei and Hiyashi Sensei practice, and that they taught Boysen scanning as the way to find the best place for the hand positions and for treatment. They also indicated that Boysen scanning was the most important practice technique for a student to master after the practice of continually receiving repeated attunements. Yet Takata Sensei, she never taught how to do Boysen scanning. She also did not teach any of the other methods used by Usui Sensei or Hiyashi Sensei. Again, those methods such as Gas-ho, Reiji-ho, Kinyoko, and Gyashi-ho, and so forth. And again, we're going to learn all of these techniques. But additionally, she had a different attunement method for each level of Reiki, taught her students that the attunements powered the symbols, and taught a master symbol that was given to master students. In her system, the master symbol was needed in order to give attunements. It could also be used during Reiki sessions for the purpose of deep healing. She did not encourage her students to receive as many attunements as possible, which was taught by Usui Sensei and Hiyashi Sensei, but taught that just one set of 4 attunements for Reiki 1 and one set of 2 attunements for Reiki 2 and one for the master level was all that was necessary. The simplified system that Takata Sensei taught was effective and had proven to produce valuable results for her students and their clients. Because of this, Takata Sensei can be considered an important innovator of the Usui Reiki treatment. All right. So one thing that is important to note about Hoya Takata is that Reiki would most likely have fallen into obscurity and never have been practiced by people all around the world. Even in Japan, it most likely would have become unknown. This is because after World War II, the United States required Japan to unconditionally surrender. This placed the United States in complete control of Japan. One of the conditions the U.S. required is that all those practicing any kind of healing be required to have a license. Some of the healing groups did get licensed, but the Usui Reiki group decided that they did not want to be controlled by a licensing board and instead chose to go underground. They decided that the members were not to talk to anyone outside of the group or to give Reiki. They would only practice Reiki with one another and on one another's family. So needless to say, in that time, as they were moving Reiki underground because they didn't want to comply to government licensing, Reiki was pretty much about to become obsolete. But because Takata Sensei learned Reiki in Japan and returned to Hawaii and began teaching Reiki before World War II, she prevented Reiki from being lost altogether. She was a great teacher, and she promoted and taught Reiki classes all over Hawaii and in many parts of the U.S. mainland. Before her passing, she taught 22 Reiki masters who carried on the tradition. And one thing also to note about Hoya Takata is after World War II, the reason there's so many different rumors about the development of Reiki is that as she was teaching, she told a lot of her students that Usui Sensei was actually a Christian priest. And I think the speculation is that she did this to so Reiki would be more widely accepted in the US. It's not, again, Reiki is non-denominational, which is something that's pretty awesome about it, in that it just lends itself to pure spirituality, to pure connection to that divine spark. You can plug in whatever word works for you there. And so she often changed the story from where Usui Sensei went to find a Buddhist or a Zen teacher to learn from, and she changed it to the fact that he went to a Christian seminary instead and learned from an abbot. So again, all of those terms are simply interchangeable and have to do with perspective and culture. So in order for the US to accept Reiki and for her to more easily teach it and spread it widely, she kind of changed that story around. So until William Lee Rand, the current father of Reiki, and he is still practicing in the US, until he did some deep research to uncover the truth, which you just heard the true story of the evolution of Reiki. Yeah, it was said it was originally thought that Usui Sensei was a Christian priest from Japan. And to broaden that sense, they questioned, his students were said to have questioned why Jesus could heal and why he couldn't heal, and why he couldn't teach his students to heal. So then the rumor was that that was his drive to go up on top of the mountain, similar to what Jesus did. But in all seriousness, he was Japanese and he followed the Buddhist teachings and Zen teaching, but really didn't subscribe to any particular religion, which again, I believe is why Reiki is non-denominational currently. All right. So next question for your journals. You ready? 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 So we just learned about lineage of Reiki. And as we're learning about this lineage, it's going to help us connect deeper to the essence. But my question for you currently is, are there any beliefs that you can release about who you are? And yes, this is a very abstract question. Are there any current beliefs that you can release about who you are? I'm going to type it in the chat too. Are there any current beliefs about who you are that you can release? Mhm. So take about 1 more minute to finish up any thoughts about any current beliefs about who you are that you could release. Alrighty. So I am just going to finish up. There's just a little bit left, like a couple of paragraphs really. And then we'll open it up to anyone who'd like to share. So one thing that William Lee Rand has come to realize is, just like the story of the Reiki lineage and from his own personal training experience, is that there is no limit of possibilities for the Usui Reiki to be developed or to be offered. As demonstrated by Usui Sensei, Hayashi Sensei, and Takata Sensei, Reiki is something that is meant to be developed. This is true for the techniques one uses to practice Reiki, but is also true for the quality of the healing energy itself. Reiki energy comes from an infinite source, and because of this, regardless of how developed and evolved one's healing energy has become, one can always be channeling only a small portion of the potential healing energy that is available. It is always possible for the quality, effectiveness, and benefit of one's healing energy to improve, and this does include what takes place in the attunements and any other Reiki technique that you learn and hone in on. Usui Sensei alluded to this when he said he wasn't at the top of the Reiki healing system, but one step below it. And as we saw in the kanji from last week, or whenever you did your orientation, that 3 circle squares in the center, proving that the healer is one step below the heavens. It is also important to note that according to the Bible, Jesus, who is considered by many to be a great healer and spiritual master, said that he could do everything he had done and even more. So, and even today, Reiki continues to be developed. In fact, you all are part of a revolutionary part and a beta group of doing Reiki virtually, learning Reiki virtually, being attuned virtually. So you can go ahead and begin working with that Reiki energy, and then moving into, once we're all able to meet in person, you'll receive a second attunement where you'll be attuned in person. So that concludes my lesson for today. I would love to open up the floor to you all if you feel like sharing what you, any parts of what you've written. You can share all of it, some of it, none of it. Just listen to your heart. As always, I invite you to connect with your intuition and share what would feel right from you from your heart space. So, no rush, but if you feel like sharing, you can just unmute yourself and begin. Does anybody want to share?
I will for just a quick second. I think all of our lives are kind of busy right now. I know mine is especially.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this all just kind of like it's like the nail with the hammer effect. It really does explain how we're all connected and how I know for me personally, little things in my life, I've always wondered about. I've always wondered why these symbols, these meanings, these people, it seems like unrealistic things um, that occur in our life that we really like can't explain about. It kind of comes about, and this just explains it all. I guess makes sense. It's a point in my life where I'm still learning about myself, not only about myself but my surroundings, the people who are in my life. I'm trying to break a lot of cycles right now personally. Um, this definitely helps open up my eyes more. And I love all of the information you gave tonight. It's that's all I got.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Anytime we share, we always, and you can, whisper this or say it out loud. We always say, I see you, I hear you, I am you. Thank you for sharing.
I see you, I hear you, I am you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I suppose my responses to your questions, I guess for me it's about more not holding back anymore, to not lead a life ruled by fear. Essentially that I want to be loved and love, to create and release, to heal myself and others. And I had this little excerpt that kind of gave me a kick. That was a little vulgar, but basically said, "Fuck you, pain, but you're still my sensei."
Very true.
Yeah. And yeah, to the second question, it kind of brought up a past experience. I've always had kind of a struggle with perfectionism. I know a lot of us do. And basically just admitting to myself that, I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be. And that doesn't mean that I can't choose to be better daily, but there's not an end goal to it. It's just slowly being better day by day. And yeah, that there's a lot more to learn.
Yes. Love it. I am you. Oh, wait. I see you. I hear you. I am you. Thank you for sharing.
I see you. I hear you. I am you.
Namaste.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all for being on the call. I did want to open up the floor for just any questions about the history or the email that I sent you earlier this week. The email having all the details about how to access the Google Drive and I think I've added everyone and kind of gotten weeded out the other folks who are not a part of the training in the Facebook group, and letting you guys know that I'm here for you if you have anything that pops up for you. And I'll continue in that Facebook group to send out journal prompts throughout the week, but we are all here to hold each other accountable. If you guys have a question about anything, any spiritual matter, or just life matter, because right, life is spiritual, please feel free to contact me about that or put it in the group if you feel like it's something you can share that's not, too personal, or even if it is personal. I invite you to share that so we can all kind of learn how Reiki can be used to address life issues. And just a final note that is coming from my heart is we're still struggling as a global environment with fear as we move through this pandemic. And to allow yourself to not be affected by that, simply by staying grounded and centered in a daily practice. And if you need help developing your daily practice, again, that's what the group is for. That's what I'm here for. And something that I'm integrating into my daily practice is learning about the natural time mapping, which I really love. There's a beautiful picture there. But it is today, Logan, I'm stating this because of what you said about perfectionism. It says, don't wait for a perfect life. Breathe in the life that's already perfect. So knowing that you are perfectly imperfect and that we're all wonderfully made. And that is what I leave you with tonight. So I'm going to close out with the Reiki ideals, and we'll take a couple of deep breaths to end. So the original Reiki ideals, the secret art of inviting happiness, the miraculous medicine of all diseases. Just for today, do not be angry. Do not worry, instead be filled with gratitude. Devote yourself to your work and be kind to people and all living things. Every morning and evening, join your hands in prayers. Pray these words to your heart and chant these words with your mouth. The Usui Reiki treatment for the improvement of mind, body, and spirit. So taking in a deep, deep inhale. One more breath, inviting relaxation and peace in. I thank you all so very much for sharing in this practice. I see you, I hear you, and I am you. The highest in me honors and sees the highest in each of you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a beautiful night. Again, I'm here for you all week long, and I'll see you next Sunday evening, same time, same place.
Next Sunday. All right. I see you.
All right.
I
We'll see you
hear you.
Sunday.
I am you.